for joining me, Sally. I'd love to know, just give me like the haiku introduction of who you are and how you came to be in the seat of the teacher in a Yin style training.
Yeah. So I learned about Yin Yoga after being a Vinyasa teacher. And I learned from Sarah Powers. She just blew me away in 2008. And I was so fascinated by what Yin Yoga brought up in me emotionally. So much resistance, so much anger, and a lot of it was directed at Sarah, actually.
Oh, really?
Like, why is this teacher making me hold these poses so long? And I thought I was good. I've been doing vinyasa for a while. I thought I was good. I figured out how to be calm and balanced. And then I'd be in reclined pigeon. I'd just be pissed. I'd be so pissed. And I loved, though, even though I had all this discomfort come up, I loved how she spoke about the purpose of Yin Yoga being to make space for uncomfortable emotions. And then she correlated it to the organs and the meridians. And I loved the way that she taught. And so it really, because it brought so much up in me personally, I just started doing it a lot. My practice took a complete 90-degree turn and was like way yin every day. My vinyasa practice totally fell by the wayside. And I started teaching yin yoga instead of vinyasa yoga after doing a training with her. And my partner at the time was also a yin yoga teacher who'd been studying with her. So it was great, at a lot of really good places to practice, like with my partner. And then he had a studio. So there were yin classes in his studio. And this was way back before yin was really that popular. So since I was very interested in it and there wasn't much yin happening, I guess I just became one of the more well-known teachers of yin yoga in this area around Philadelphia. I love explaining things. My background, my education background is in chemical engineering. And I have
of course, naturally.
Makes perfect sense. So I love the science part of yin yoga, and I loved coming up with a curriculum for how to talk about fascia in a way that was understandable to everyday people, and how to make correlations with organs and emotions that kind of made sense to everybody, not just people that would be like, oh yeah, I get it. I'm more esoteric and spiritual. But also to, I actually teach quite a lot of scientists now and accountants and lawyers and very left brain people. So yeah, I guess it was my personal passion for it, kind of combined by maybe just my natural tendency to be an explainer of things. I don't know.
I love that. But, I love the yin origin story. I have never had the opportunity to study with Sarah, and I think it's so interesting to hear your original response to that teaching. I think so often we receive this message, or I have received the message that the thing that calls to me should be something that feels delicious and joyful or euphoric. And the idea that what we can offer can come from this place of confrontation, right? This like growth into a new space. I just really appreciate that. That you weren't yin, hook, line, and sinker from the beginning.
Way. No way. I was really skeptical. I was really resistant, but also curious. I guess I had known enough at that point in my life that all good things aren't easy. I was like, okay, this is showing me something in myself. And I did feel incredible benefits afterwards, so it wasn't like I hated it before, during, and after practice. It would be more like before, during, it was so hard. And then after, I'd be like, whoa, I'm looking at my relationship so differently now. I feel so much more calm now, so much more flexible now. Changed my body so much.
Well, you incorporate, from what I've experienced of you, you incorporate a lot of myofascial kinds of techniques into your teaching. Is that part of your training as well?
So that is an interesting story. I didn't start using, I have one in my hand right now, Jill Miller's therapy balls or foam rollers or myofascial stuff until much later. So I was teaching kind of traditional yin yoga for a long time. And then I got married to someone who was a personal trainer who was a complete movement geek, like totally obsessed with Kelly Starrett. I don't know if you know him, Jill Miller. And so I would be doing my yin yoga practice and he'd be like, hey, why don't you roll out your calves and see if that helps your knee feel better? I was like, I never thought about that. But my knees hurt in meditation. So I tried it and it helped so much. So then I kind of slowly just started playing with balls in yin yoga postures and foam rollers in yin yoga postures. And he and I invented a few postures, which was really fun, gave them new names. And I love Jill Miller's work. I'm still learning so much about myofascial release. And I think it's a great combination, but that they are different, So I think in my teaching, there's 80% yin, what people might think of as classical yin postures, where we hold them longer and it's very still. And then maybe 20% of let's roll something out or grab a foam roller. Still, the focus is mostly on stillness.
I think that this is one of the things that I personally appreciate when I take yin classes, when I travel and jump into a studio where I can just take a class and experience something, is how each of us creates our own secret recipe of yin, maybe not secret, but our own customized recipe of yin. And I'm curious, like, I love that you incorporate that. Can you tell me any of the other sort of, if I were to walk in and experience a Sally class, I'm going to experience some stillness. I'm going to experience maybe some myofascial, like a little contribution of that. How about the way that you use your voice in the practice? What makes a specific Sally voiced class?
That's such a great question. I'm going to tell you what my students tell me because that's just a little easier.
Of course.
So, well, one thing they always point out is that my meditations in the beginning of class are usually longer than other yin classes. My 500-hour yoga training was in meditation. So I really love meditation. And for me, I always begin with that. And usually it's a little longer and more settling. People find that my voice is very settling and grounding. And then at the end of class, I usually do a longer shavasana than people might be used to. For me, that's just standard. Like I was taught 10 minutes shavasana no matter what. So I never skimp on that. So my classes are really bookended by stillness and meditation. Really, I think of the shavasana like meditation, so you have meditation in the beginning, meditation at the end. And then I try to be really conscious about not talking too much when people are in yin postures, but also not talking too little. And this was interesting. I don't know if you know Julie from Integrate Network. Do you know her?
I don't think so.
She's a great yin teacher. And I think she also does yin trainings. I can hook you guys up if you want.
Please.
But she was saying that she thought in my classes that I talked more than other teachers. And I was blown away because for years people were like, oh, thank God you give a little bit of silence. Everyone else is just chatting the whole time and I can't do what they're asking me to do. So, for years I would have said my voice is, or the feeling in my class is more that there's quiet so you can really drop into your own experience rather than have to digest what the teacher is saying the whole time.
Right.
But what Julie was pointing out is that this is something I'm just used to doing. Kari is giving one dharana practice, one concentration practice for the whole class. So I might pick relax your tongue as our dharana as our concentration practice. And then I'll give you little blocks of silence to really do it, and try not to put my words on top of your experience too much, so that you can feel all that comes up in the silence.
I love that. And I really relate to, I feel like I may teach very similarly in the way that I voice, because I do often begin with, I'll say I would come from the way that I would identify what informs my teaching is a little bit more trauma informed. And so for me, I am very mindful that stillness cannot feel comfortable for people. And so I always give like a dharana practice. Like if stillness doesn't feel appropriate, you could rub your index and thumb together during any pose, just to give yourself a place to feel some movement. Or I might direct movement, concentration, or concentration into the breath, or concentration into the place where the body meets the ground, or something like that. But I also talk very little, which I thought I taught. I thought I spoke very little. And then I went to study with Bernie Clark. So I studied with Bernie Clark and his partner, his teaching partner, Diana Batts. And Bernie he speaks the whole time. I don't know if you've ever experienced his classes, but he would tell these stories from the Gita and like all of these stories. And I found it to be really enjoyable. Like I could tune in and out, almost like a yoga nidra kind of practice, where sometimes I'm aware that he's speaking and what he's speaking, and sometimes I'm not aware. And it's okay. I didn't find it intrusive or disruptive. And then Diana would teach. And I swear to you, she said 8 words in the whole class. And I thought that I was a minimalist when it came to speaking. And I swear to you, she would somehow get people into caterpillar pose by saying, now fold.
I love it.
And that was the
right.
Which this is why I asked this question about voicing, because I think that there's so many right ways, skillful, authentic ways to voice inside of a class. That I think that it's something we can be really attentive to.
Yeah, and some people love Bernie's style, for example, and some people don't. And some people love it when it's just the most simple instruction, So I think it's wonderful. Like you said, there can be so many different ways.
So many ranges.
Yeah.
When it comes to your training, can you tell me a little bit about the container of the Yin training that you offer? So by that, I mean the format and the structure. And if somebody were to like visualize themselves moving through the whole training, what would their fast forward movement look like?
Yeah. So we meet 3 weekends over the summer this year. It starts June 25th this year. 3 weekends, Saturday and Sunday, 2 to 7. And there's an in-person option in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, where I live, and then also an online option. And so each day, 2 to 7, has a lot of different things. So like we start with meditation, and then we do a workshop style practice for 7 yin yoga postures, meaning we just talk more, like I'll lead them in. And then if someone wants to ask a question in the middle of the practice, it's great. And then we have a discussion, I call it tea and philosophy discussion, where we make some tea and we talk about different topics. So sometimes it's Taoist theory, yin yang theory, sometimes it's meridians. One day of the training, we talk about neuroscience and yin yoga and left and right brain stuff. Then we have a walking break after our tea. And then we get back together and I lead an hour-long quiet practice. So not quite as quiet as it sounds like Bernie's partner does, but not questions in the middle, like the workshop practice. And then we have practice teaching after that. So I have all these different games that I've come up with for people if they want to. It's totally optional, but if they want to get up in the front of the class and teach a little bit, we end the day like that. So in essence, there's 6 days, 6 5-hour days. And I record them, so it's not live streamed. I found that actually is a little, at least for me, a little disruptive, trying to teach in person and to people that are live streaming. So I have a class portal, a teacher training portal where people would just go on through my website and watch the recorded classes if they do it online.
Nice.
And there's some homework. So that altogether is 30 hours and they would get CEUs for Yoga Alliance. And then there's also a 20-hour homework segment, with reading and home practice. So if they complete that 20-hour homework stuff, then they get a 50-hour certificate at the end. Yeah.
That's so great. When you hear students as they complete your program,
Yeah.
what are the nuggets that you hear as they what they're taking away from their experience? Is there a particular flavor or a couple of flavors of nuggets that people walk away from?
A lot of people have said they feel like it's the missing link in their practice. Like they've done lots of vinyasa, but they haven't done yin yet. And then they take it like, wow, I really get so much out of this. A lot of people also find that they were craving stillness, like they knew they wanted more stillness in their life, but weren't quite sure how to get it. And maybe they've tried seated meditation and it just never stuck. But that yin is an amazing bridge. That's another nugget, that yin is like such a good bridge between asana or vinyasa yoga and meditation. And they find that they really have more felt sense of being at home in their body after the training, and knowing that their body doesn't have to perform like other people's bodies. I really am mindful in the training to give lots of different variations of each posture, and even just giving permission that one day our butterfly pose might look one way and then the next day it looks different, so that we don't even have to hold our own selves to a certain standard of what the posture should look like. So I think that's very freeing. I think people feel like, oh, my yoga practice can be really different every single day. And if I want more stillness, now I have the tools. I could do just a yin practice at home, or I could do a mixture of maybe a couple vinyasa flows and then end with some yin posture.
What kinds of resources do you use? Do you use books or content that you've created or curated elsewhere?
Yeah, so this will be my 12th year doing Yin Yoga Teacher Trainings, and I have a 200-page manual that I wrote with all kinds of pictures and philosophy and stuff. That's our main text. But then I also recommend 3 different books. I like Sarah Power's book, Insight Yoga, so much. And because I learned from her, there are so many similarities. So people get a lot out of reading her book. I also studied a bit with Reggie Ray, who's an amazing somatic meditation teacher. And I love his book called The Awakening Body. It talks about somatic meditation. And so that is another recommended reading book. And then for the myofascial part, I like for people to have Jill Miller's book called The Role Model, because there's just so many good pictures and such amazing case studies in there about how people have used myofascial balls and foam rollers and all this stuff to heal themselves. So I think I find her book to be a really great resource and also inspiration to actually do the thing of laying on a ball for 5 minutes a day.
Right. Yeah. What do you find your students do afterward?
Yeah, all of them tend to continue on practicing with me in some way. Like I have this Wednesday night Yin yoga class, and many of the people in there have taken my training before, and they like to just keep dropping in, touching base. Some of them will go on to do my meditation immersion, because that's kind of a logical next step.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. I often think of yin as sort of the gateway to meditation for people who find that sitting for a period of time is not possible for physical, mental, emotional, spiritual reasons. Regardless of the reason, that yin can provide that nice little well, could you hold still for 5 minutes
Yeah.
and then wiggle and then
Right.
5 minutes and then, so of course, meditation is such a beautiful next step.
Yeah.
I love that you have this 50-hour container as well. My 50-hour container is very different. I offer a level 1 that's 1 day. And then for
cool.
people who want to do a level 2, that's 2 days. And for people who want to do a level 3, it's 3 days. And so
Wow. Mm-hmm.
my what I find frequently for me is that a lot of people like to take level 1, which kind of just gives them the basics to be able to instruct a safe and intentional yin practice. And then level 2 gives them the capacity to sequence. I feel like sequencing is the area where I have insight and something different to offer that I haven't seen elsewhere.
Nice.
And then some people want level 3. And I didn't intend to offer a level 2 or a level 3. I told people, I said, you basically just lie on the floor and you flop over. It's not hard to teach,
So funny. Yeah.
It's like elephant seals on the beach, and you're like, okay, one side, okay, the other side, okay,
Right.
now meditate and we're finished.
Yeah.
And it was really based on, I really shared the cognitive load with my students and said, what would you want to learn? Like, what's missing? What do you need? And so for level 2, it's upper body, it's leveraging the wall as a prop, it's sequencing, and it's more traditional Chinese medicine sort of anatomy. And then level 3 for me is about taking the teaching and making it yours. It's half yin, but it's half every other thing that you bring to the table to create something. And so I'm often curious about where and how to support people who have taken certain levels with me in finding some additional resource. It sounds like you offer a lot of kind of workshopping of postures and walking meditation and guidance in that realm of somatic meditation. That would just be a really beautiful addition. I often will find people who've graduated from other yin trainings will just take level 3 with me. Or they might just take level 2 if they want the sequencing piece. But that kind of segment things out a little bit and let people go a la carte at their pace, at their schedule. And some people are 1, 2, 3 in a week. They want to do the whole thing. And some people take 5 years between taking one section and another section. And so it's been interesting to watch. I'm curious to know if there's anything you've been reading lately that you really enjoy.
Yes. I'm bouncing up and down because I'm so about it. Well, I know we both love books, so that also just makes me happy to talk about books with you. I've been reading Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, and I just love it. I'm gobbling it up. I've been talking about emotions in Yin Yoga for so long.
Right.
And mostly just from my own experience and from the tantric and Taoist philosophy that I learned orally from different teachers, So now having this one book that was written by a researcher who is so eloquent and so just warm, and I laugh reading her book and cry, and I just love that now I have this incredible resource to help me continue to understand my own emotions, but then also give to my students when they're ready, or if they want that kind of exploration.
Yeah, it sounds like it's so in line with, I can appreciate why you in particular are so excited about it, hearing the way that you layer or center the emotional experience inside of a practice. That would be such a compliment. I love that. I haven't had the chance to read it yet. It's literally on my nightstand.
But you have it.
But I have it. Nice. Yeah, I've been reading Pause, Rest, Be by Octavia Rahim.
Oh, cool.
Which is, I think it's her second book. And it's a very, I think it speaks nicely to my personality, because you could read it cover to cover, but you can also dip into it. It's one of those books that you could open any page and find like a standalone nugget of wisdom that is about this stillness,
Yeah.
pause. And it's just so beautifully written. And so I've been really enjoying that one recently.
Thanks for sharing. I'll check it out. It sounds really good.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time this morning, this afternoon.
Pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you so much.